Good evening and welcome. Thank you. My food is upstairs. Welcome to this live. I'm sorry for the lateness. Okay, so I won't be waiting for too long. We'll just get straight into it. We're going to be doing a soil rescue this evening. So, as to assure that we will have good harvest at the end of the day, because to have a good harvest, our soil needs to be able to support what we are planting. I would also be introducing my indoor plants. It's a baby rubber plant as we go along. Thank you. Welcome. Now, in gardening, the soil is necessary, or any material is necessary to serve as anchor for our plants. Sometimes this could be water, because there are some plants that can actually survive growing in water. This could be lacquer or any other forms of soil that we're trying to use for our garden. The garden may be for food or it may be for flower gardening. What we want at the end of the day is to be able to harvest beautifully. We want to be able to harvest beautiful crop, beautiful flowers, and then you would know all that you have put into your garden over the weeks, over the months, has actually come, even over the years, if you're growing trees, has actually come in good. So this is one thing we have at the back of our mind, but we also need to remind ourselves year in, year out, if you're growing something on your soil, you need to be returning something to your soil. That is where fertilization comes from. And then you see people going online to buy fertilizers in the shops. The fertilizers in the shops are probably made from all these things that we have around us, or made from chemicals. It doesn't matter. The important thing here is that we need to return certain items to our soil to enable our plants grow well in the next season. Because we may be growing in the first season, maybe you bought the soil, and then in the next season you would automatically find that your crop is not doing as well as the season before. The reason for this would be that the crop in the first season is taking some nutrients out of the soil, and so the crop in the second season is not finding them available. This is why we have to go through different means of producing amendments for our soil, so the soil constantly remains fertile. To ensure fertility of our soil, consider the forests. The plants keep growing and it keeps getting bigger year in, year out. Nobody goes to the forests to fertilize the trees, really, most of the time, but they keep growing. The reason for this is because the trees take care of themselves by dropping their leaves at certain points. This would provide fertility for the trees, Thank you very much. Welcome. I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You're welcome. I'm fine. Thank you. So today we are talking about rescuing our soil from the day-to-day gardening that we are doing. Thank you for the like. I really appreciate you. So from the day-to-day gardening that we are doing, this is depleting our soil. It's taking something out of the soil. So we have to consider returning fertility back to the soil. And the trees in the forest are not actually being looked after and being fertilized seriously by anybody. How do they do it? They drop their leaves. When they drop their leaves, the ground is covered. That means it doesn't evaporate quickly on the forest floor. And then this encourages earthworms. The earthworms would come along. There will be a lot of microorganisms. They break down the leaves, and the earthworms feed on everything that is available. This returns fertility to the soil, and this is what we are going to try to copy in our own gardens as well. We would have to find certain items from our household that we can put in the soil. We may also go to the shops and buy this, but if we have the opportunity, we can use such things as eggshells. I collect these eggshells and I just put them. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. We collect these eggshells and we just put them away after washing. When you're ready, throw them into a bag and push it around until it breaks. It will break into several tiny pieces, and you can now put this into your blender mill. Now these are just shopping bags, and I'm going to show you how I will reduce these eggs into smaller bits. So if I take about half of the content of this bowl, that's half of the eggs in that basket. I don't want to make too much noise with it, but it will be crunchy and it becomes smaller bits. These smaller bits I will now put into a mill and blend it. It will be so little at the end of the exercise. So although these eggshells seems to be a lot, by the time I crush it down in the nylon bag and put what I have left in the mill, it's going to be just about enough to fill a container as this. That's just the amount. And this powdered form contains calcium, magnesium, phosphorus. It contains so much element that the soil needs. I'll just put this in my soil. I put it in the compost bin. I just spread it all around at the beginning of the year because I've been collecting it. I did it last year. I'll do it again when we have another year come in, because you want to make sure you have all this food waste returned back to your soil. There was a day I just dug up my compost bin and I saw an eggshell that I'd missed. I'm sure that eggshell has been there probably since the beginning of the year, and the earthworms haven't been able to do much with it. But when I break it up and then powder it, the earthworms can use it when they feed. because the earthworms take in their food, but they need something that is more gritty to help their gizzard to break down the food. So when you have a little of this, the earthworms will actually be healthier. You can put a handful or 2 handfuls into your compost bin, and the earthworms, you can't have excess of these things because they are just natural. They are not the chemicals that we buy from the shops. You can just put this into your bin, into your garden bed, and you know that the organisms in there are going to have an advantage of it. When you're growing tomatoes and peppers, they need calcium, and you have calcium in here. So having eggshells is one very good way of replenishing our soil, and we rescue our garden. Now, when you have other things like plantain peels, they contain a lot. The only thing that's not in plantain peel is nitrogen. We have phosphorus and magnesium, and this is what helps the fruits to ripen and grow bigger. So you want to put plantain peels into your garden soil, into your compost bin to replenish your soil. This is the plantain peel that I have. Now this plantain peel is dry because I've had it for a while. I just, when you eat plantain or bananas, they have their peels in about three. I just strip it into the number of strips it wants to make. I keep it on a tray with paper. This is actually the tray. Just put the strips of banana. If I had 3 or 4 bananas in the house for the day, we just put it on here, and in about 4 days it will be brown like this, and it's already dry. This I can break down and add to my soil. It really works wonders. Now, if this was the growing season, you can just take your banana peels or your plantain peels right away and cut it up and go and put it in the soil outside. You don't have to wait for it to dry. So I'm keeping these ones because I don't grow a lot of things during the winter. I prepare for spring during the winter. That's what I do mainly. I prepare for spring. I look for all the waste things that we've been storing. I try to break them down and mill them and have them all ready to mix with the soil. And then I go mix with the compost, mix with the garden soil, and I know that the garden is ready for the following year. So after putting this is the second thing that I put in the garden bed, the banana peels, broken up, made into powder. I'll show you a little bit of it that I have in my container from the year before. There's just a little bit of the banana peels that I have put in a meal and put into a container waiting to be used in my garden beds. This puts a lot of the nutrients back into the soil because all these plants were growing in the soil. They were taking all the goodness out of the soil. We should endeavor to return them to the soil. The third thing I've already blended this. This is peanut shells. There's peanut You know the casing of peanuts? Peanuts are leguminous plants. Their leaves, their stems, their nuts, a lot of protein. It's very good for ground cover. So when you have the peanut shell that nobody wants to eat and you collect it over a period into a container, one day you can come along and blend it into a powder and then mix it with your soil. The reason why we need to do this is because we all know the peanut is quite hard. It's going to take a long time if you expect this peanut to break down by itself. If you want your soil to be rich, you want your soil to be rescued, it's much better to mill the peanut casing and mix it with the soil when you're ready. I have here as well, this is chicken bone that I have milled. I collected the chicken bones and it filled an entire container. And then I come along and blend it. First I break it into smaller pieces with a piece of stone, like I did the eggs, but not with my hand. It's got to be with a piece of stone. Break it into smaller pieces, and I put these smaller pieces into a mill and blend it. And this is what we have from the chicken bones. It's just the bone and blood meal that is sold in the shops. So if you can't make your own, you can buy the bone and blood meal from the shops. It helps to replenish the soil and you will have better harvests in your garden. One more thing that you need to add to the soil, that I add to my soil regularly every year, is leaves, dried leaves, fresh leaves. Let me first talk about the dried leaves. The dried leaves from trees. When a leaf is drying on a tree, the tree would absorb the nitrogen back and then the leaf will fall down dry and that becomes carbon. That is very good for our plants. The plants need carbon. So when you have dried leaves, it contains carbon because the nitrogen in it has been absorbed by the tree. So all those dry leaves that we're collecting contain mainly carbon. You would wonder it was containing nitrogen before. The nitrogen has been absorbed back into the tree when the leaf died. Now, when you have fresh leaves and grass clippings, you'd have these fresh leaves in form of weeds that you have around the garden, such weeds as comfrey, borage, dandelions. They all, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. I use a big blending mill. Let me show you. This is the blending mill that I use. Actually, this is made to be a juicer, and this is made to be the meal. But this works better for me because what I want to blend is a lot. And I have another smoothie maker. So I use this one because I have another smoothie maker, not because I can't use it for smoothie anymore, but because it's a bit cracked. And when I'm trying to make smoothie, the smoothie will be liquid. It will be pouring out. So I just put a tape over the crack here, and I'm saying, oh, thank God it's cracked. And I use it to blend everything. I used to go through the motions of using this small one before, but luckily now I can use just this bigger one. I never even thought of using this bigger one before. I just tried it and I realized, okay, I can even use it to do dry items because it's upside down. So it works really well for me. I just put it in and blend what I have because I've already crushed them and they are not like a large volume anymore. By the time I will blend the eggs in here 3 or 4 times, I would have blended half of the eggs and enough that I need for the day. Yeah. The leaf that I collect, I would try to keep it on a ground where I know there's a lot of earthworms. Make holes into the bag of leaves and place it on the ground. You can place it on the ground in a corner near where some plants are. Definitely, if there are plants in a place, there will be earthworms there. So if you place a bag of leaves there, the earthworms will migrate into the bag of leaves and they will help break down your leaves for you. You can just go there once in a while and make sure that the place is wet and not dry because they need a wet and moist environment. The earthworms will work, and within 6 months, you can now take those leaves that you have, start mixing it with your soil, just a little at a time. It's very good compost because remember the trees that are standing upright, they have a lot of roots as deep as their height. So if you see a tree, it's got a large portion of it right down in the ground, collecting minerals, collecting nutrients. And all these nutrients are being stored in the leaves, in the fruits. We take the fruits, we eat. The peels of the fruits, we put it in our compost or we mix with our soil. When we have the leaves, they also have their uses. We allow them to break down and we mix them with our soil. So that at the end of the day, you'll find that a lot of these items don't even have to go away to landfill. Hello, thank you very much, Angela's Busy Bees. Thank you, you're welcome. A lot of these items don't have to go to landfill. You can find ways of breaking them into smaller bits and using them in the garden. Because if it was a living thing before, recently, then you can put it in the garden and earthworms can feed on it and you can still find some more leaves because what happens is if you have the leaves and you sweep them away, there will still be some leaves left on the trees. And this is not just about just this year. Now you can keep the leaves that comes along next year and don't let them go away because those leaves contain a lot of nutrients I'm laughing because you said you swept away all your leaves. There will still be a bit that will be left that you can still use. You just have to put them in a bag or sweep them into a corner so that the earthworms will gather where you put them. Because I do that at the back of my fence. I just sweep some leaves. I don't even bag them up. I have some bagged up that I put within my fence, but right at the back of my fence, I just sweep some leaves and leave them there. And by the following year, that's about 8 months' time, I go there and lift them up. There's so many earthworms because it's just on the open ground. I now go there and pack them and bring them and use them in my garden, and it contains a lot of nutriment. This is something that we do year in, year out. So even if you have swept away your leaves for this year, you can have more leaves growing on the trees next year. And that's what you do. Yes, a juice blender, unless if it's a juicer, a juice blender is different. A juicer, if that's what you mean, but if it's like a juicer that is like upside down, like a mill, this is what I use because I want to save time, because I'm going to be blending a lot. But if you are only going to be doing just a little, this is the mill that came with this system. There's a blender with a handle, there's this, and then there's the mill. But the mill is actually too small because I want to blend a lot of things. So I use this bigger one, and it really worked for me. So when you have all this leaf fall, the upside down one, you can put them in. Make sure they have already been crushed so that they're no longer very big. Put them in up to 2/3. Don't make it full. Let it be about 2/3. Put it in and blend it. It will bring the eggshells to powder. It will bring the crushed bones to powder. It will bring the crushed banana leaves to powder. But as well, if it's during the season, you can blend the fresh banana leaves and just use it as a fertilizer for your garden. But in that case, what you would need to do is wait for it to ferment, to collect a lot of bacteria from the atmosphere, a lot of microorganisms from the atmosphere. Then it starts to have this smell as if it's an alcoholic drink. I do that a lot with my plantain and banana peels during the summer. I just blend it and put it in water for 6 days. By the 7th day, it has this sweet alcoholic smell. You dilute it and use it to wet the garden. It works fantastically for all plants because the banana and plantain leaves contain a lot of good nutrients. It contains phosphorus, magnesium, and is very good for ripening tomatoes. I use it to ripen my tomatoes. You have the tomatoes in good sun and you put all this banana and plantain peel in it, they will ripen, they will be very big and they will ripen very well. So what we do is we use the leaves after they've now got a lot of earthworms in them. You use it as a mulch for the surface of your garden bed. During the winter, in places where I'm not growing anything, I put the leaves and then I put cardboard, because cardboard is the next thing I'm going to talk about. Every time you have these things being delivered, thank you very much, Gloria. Every time you have these things being delivered, you save the carton. Anything that is brown carton or a food carton. If it's a food carton like a pizza carton or a brown carton from Amazon, you have no problem going to crush them into your recycling bin. Just put them in water, let them be a bit damp, and use it to cover your garden bed. The earthworms love cardboards, and they will just feed on the cardboard. If they don't eat up all the cardboard by the time you want to grow, you just collect this cardboard and put them together in a container which you are using, and putting some food scraps in it. Then you put some soil on. By the end of 9 months, there will not be any cardboard left in the container. It's just so, yeah. You need to keep the garden soil warm. You need to keep the garden soil warm, so you put the leaves on it. And then you want to prevent evaporation, because when you have a garden bed and you planted something on it, if it's just the plain soil that is at the top, it means evaporation will be taking place. But when you mulch it with leaves, then evaporation cannot take place. You don't have to keep watering so frequently. That's why when I said when you're growing peppers, you need to mulch it with leaves. When you mulch your pepper plants with leaves, the water will be remaining in the soil, and the pepper plants will be very hot because it's not being diluted. You are not pouring water on it continuously. When you have leaves, the earthworms have something to live on. So it's just a way of feeding the soil and preventing soil from drying. So it saves you from having to water so many times when you have the leaves. Even our Christmas tree, I use the pine. I just sit down and cut all the pine on the Christmas tree, and use all that pine needles and put it on the garden bed. Usually put it under the strawberries because they are the ones that need that kind of pine needles. I put it under the strawberries, and no slugs, nothing will be able to come up. If you put pine needles on your garden bed where you are growing strawberries, the slugs cannot come up, and your strawberry is feeling very fine, because the slugs actually destroy the strawberries after it has ripened, and you are thinking, let me go and harvest it. You will just see, oh my God, one slug has eaten a part of it. You want to make sure that your strawberry is delivered safely. One good way is to mulch it, and using pine needles is very, very good. Some people will probably use clothing material, other forms of leaves, but when you mulch your garden bed where you're growing strawberries, it doesn't allow slugs to come up. They don't eat your garden, and when these pine needles are breaking down gradually, they are adding substance and nutrients to your soil. Now, this is one more thing that I add to my garden bed, and it's just coconut shells and husk, and any one that I can lay my hands on. What I do is I have this small metal bucket incinerator. I just put it in along with some paper and make a kind of fire. I can't remember what's the name of this thing. This is like peanuts. Oh, the name has run away from my memory now. They will burn quickly, in a fire, but they will not break down quickly if I didn't put them in. If I just put them in the soil, they're like peanuts. Can you see what I'm holding? Yeah, peanut shells. These are peanut shells. I just grind them. And mix it with the soil. I grind them in the mill, and peanuts are legumes, they return nitrogen to the soil. So the shells themselves are very good at returning nitrogen to the soil. But this one is another kind of seed, another kind of nut that we eat. It's always half open when you crack it and eat it. But the name has run away from my memory right now. I'll remember as we go along. So I just collect them and collect them and collect them. They always have just one inside. And as it is, they are very hard, so I won't bother to blend them. What I do is I just throw them in a bucket with some paper and they burn. The ashes I'll add to my garden. The ashes from this plant helps the plants to grow very well. The ashes helps the plants to grow very well. And it's also activities to do, because we say, oh, okay, now today have we got enough of the shells to burn? We just take it and we go and we burn it. I also have bits and pieces of wood. Thank you for the likes. Please leave a like for my channel. Thank you, I appreciate you. Now I also collect pieces of wood. It doesn't have to be wood that's been cut up and sawed and everything. It can be the woods on the plants that are the hedges in your garden. It can be all those. Just make sure they're like thin woods and everything. You can collect those together and burn it. And when you get to the charcoal stage, you can now put water on it and let the fire go out, because you need to make sure you put out any fire that you start. You put the water on it and it will turn black. You now have this charcoal. You can now try to pound this down. You can pound this down and you will mix it with food waste that you've been keeping for a long time. That is the reason why I am collecting some food waste for myself in my container. I have this container, I just put food waste in it, and when I'm ready, I burn some wood, I take the charcoal and I mix it with the charcoal. That is called reactivated charcoal, and that is how it is best for our garden. This is because it's pure carbon. It is called sequestering. You prevent the carbon dioxide from going into the atmosphere. You keep it for the plants to use. You keep the carbon dioxide down here for the plants to use, because our plants need carbon dioxide to produce very well. So by the time we have this burning of wood, little bits and pieces of wood from the hedges that we find around, and bones as well. Have some bones, just little pieces of all these things that you can burn that will return to charcoal. You can now mix it in with some broken down food. Leave it to stay there for 2-3 days and you are good to go. Mix it with your soil. All these things help reawaken the soil. The coconut husks, when you put it in the fire, as hard as it is, you will be surprised how easily it burns. It will burn so easily and you will just see the charcoal. That's the charcoal I'm talking about. The charcoal can be mixed with food waste that we have around the house. All this helps our garden to grow very well, and you will just have very good harvest. So from things that you don't have to go to the shop first and buy your own food and go to the shop again to buy food to feed your plants. Once you've bought your own food, the waste that is produced, you can use it over and over to feed your plants because the plants need this same food that we also need to survive. They also take the same type of minerals, the same type of nutrients that we require. That's what they need and that's what they use. So it really works well if we take all these things and we either burn them or blend them and put them in the garden. Now, some people will say that will take a long time, but time is what we have. You will see a carton and you say it will take a long time, but this carton lying out there in front of my house, gradually I will see it breaking down. And before I can count 2 weeks, the carton is almost depleted. So there's no problem with me taking that same carton, just put it somewhere and let the earthworms work on it so that when I get the earthworms out of it, they will actually be in my own garden. That really works well for actually awakening our gardens. One other very important thing is each time you cut your grass, make sure you mound it, keep it together. A lot of earthworms will be growing in it. Use all these for the garden. It brings a lot of nitrogen. And nitrogen actually plants, when they start growing, they need nitrogen to develop their leaves. And when your plant is growing, the first thing you will see will be, oh, it's brought out 2 leaves. If it's a grass, oh, it's brought out 1 leaf. And it looks really nice to us. The main thing a plant needs at that stage is nitrogen. So, this nitrogen you can get from grass clippings. And when you have your grass clippings, there will be other nutrients, there will be other plants growing in the grass. You can just put all of them together and let the plants use it in your garden. You can, first of all, put it in your compost or you can use it to mulch your garden. I do that all the time. I use the grass clippings. You make sure it's the dry one. If you're going to use the grass clipping to mulch your garden, spread it out and then come back and rake it and then place it on your garden bed. Make sure you don't use the soggy grass because that may already be breaking down and causing this kind of alcoholic smell. That will probably burn your plants. That should go into the compost. That is very good for the compost. But if you want to use it for the garden bed, make sure you spread the grass out, let it dry, and then you can just scatter it over the garden bed. This will prevent evaporation. It will make the evaporation from that surface to be almost zero. It will go down. The evaporation from soil surface will go down if it's covered with different kinds of leaves and grass clippings. And they will also, over time, break down. So your plant will get carbon from the leaves, will get nitrogen from the grass clippings. And I've told you why it's carbon from the leaves. This is because when a leaf is dying on a plant, it starts to return the nitrogen to the plant. It starts to return the nitrogen to the plant, and gradually it turns yellow and brown and falls off. So by the time a leaf is falling off, it does not actually contain that nitrogen anymore. It only has carbon now. You can take the dry leaves and add it to your garden bed or to your compost, all according to how much you need, along with these other things that also supply nitrogen. Something like this will supply a lot of nitrogen. This is peanut shells. Blend it in a mill and it will supply nitrogen to the soil. This is one sure way of getting nitrogen for our soil. Now, the other thing I want to mention is these bones over here. The long bones in the chicken. If they are hard, we can burn it. We burn it and it becomes carbon. We burn it along with wood that we are burning and it becomes carbon. Then we can add the food waste to it and it becomes activated carbon for our gardening. These ones are softer. These softer ones, we can just blend it in our meal. It becomes powdered. When it is powdered, it's easy to mix with soil. And it's the same as the blood and bone meal that we buy from the shops. It contains nitrogen and a lot of calcium as well, and a lot of other nutrients that helps support the plants. And the plants will grow very well, and your production level will increase when you have that. There's also another natural product that we buy from the shops. Epsom salt. Epsom salt is just white. It's good for gardening. You can put a spoonful in a 10-liter gallon and use it to wet the soil in the garden. You can do this every other week, or you can put the solution in a spray bottle and spray it onto the leaves. That's called foliar feeding. That helps plants a lot. When you spray with Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, it helps the plants a lot because the leaves grow very well. It makes them resistant to diseases, because when a plant is growing and is growing strong, it's got all the fertility in the soil, it's not easy for it to succumb to diseases. So when it has all these nutrients in place, then that plant has a bigger chance of giving you a heavy yield, because you have supported it on every side possible and given it everything that it requires to grow. So don't make your plants to be under the stress of lack of nutrients in the soil. Put the right nutrients in the soil from your food waste that you have. We can collect our food waste without it smelling up the whole house or the whole neighborhood by using containers, lidded container, securely lidded containers. This contains food waste, and I can shake it now, feel it shaking, and I'll tell you how I made this. Now, there are times we have drinks, sugary drinks, nobody wants anymore. of these sugary drinks, I'll just put it into this container, just like 500 mils, and then I'll start dropping all the food waste in it. So they are not going in like they're going in a dry place. They are going in and they would be going into a place that is a little wet, a little soggy. By the end of 1 week, the liquid will no longer be there, but the food waste that are thrown in would make sure that they are now really mixing with each other. And I will seal it and not open it again for the next 1 month. They can remain in there and carry on breaking down. All the microbes have already gone in, because if you're eating the food, there's microbes all around it. And you throw it somewhere, it goes in with the microbe. There's microbe in the air in the container already. So when I just lid it, the decomposition can carry on in there. And after a month, I'll take this out and mix it with the soil. That is a very good way of replenishing the soil. And the container is not too big. It will get full quickly. It can get full within 4 days with all our food waste, left, right, center. So none of them will be like so broken down that, oh, we can't open that container again. At the end of each day, I put it in and lid it, because the lid is very tight. You would need a container that has a very secure lid. You can see the lid on this. It's very secure. When you put it on, nothing is going to be coming out of it. Even if you place it on its side, it's not going to be spilling out. The food that you put in will just be regressing and going further down into the sugary liquid that you have there. And all the food that you are putting in, even along with orange peels, all the food that you are putting in contain sugar. They will all be breaking down gradually. So by the time I'm going to be pouring this out in the garden, it will just be a dark sludge that I will just pour into the soil. This is richness for the plants. They are looking for food like that to feed on, because this is what the microbes in the soil will feed on, and they produce food for the earthworms. The earthworms will feed on it. They will be healthier. They produce more worm poop. This sort of production is what the plants need. I'll also take some of these and mix it with charcoal. The charcoal that I get from burning the bits and pieces of wood in a bucket. I actually got an incinerator, but before I got my incinerator, I used just a metal bucket. I'll just throw them in deep, and I'll just stay around and make sure everything burns. After that, I'll turn it, I'll spray it with water, make sure the fire is out. Then I come back and turn it out and crush it to be like powdered charcoal. Not like very thin powder, it doesn't have to be like very thin powder, but I will now turn it and mix it with the food waste that's like a liquid. The liquid will get absorbed into every crevice of this powdered charcoal. The liquid will now activate the charcoal with bacteria, with microorganisms. Then we call it activated charcoal. This kind of charcoal is good for our soil. I put it into my soil, and it helps the soil because it helps retain carbon dioxide down here, instead of all the carbon dioxide going up into the atmosphere, and our plants don't have enough carbon dioxide. Having this charcoal is very good system in gardening. It's not very well known, but if you do it, you will notice the difference. If you do it in one garden side and leave another side and come back and compare the difference between the side that you've used charcoal and the side that you haven't used charcoal, you will be surprised that that side looks a bit different. So when you put the charcoal, make sure you mix it with food waste that you've already started about a month earlier with some sugar drinks. Could be some squash, could be some soda mixed with the food waste so that the food waste has had enough time to really break down. Now mix this in with the charcoal and you put it in your soil. The microorganisms in the soil will be happy because there's microorganisms in the food waste already and they are meeting each other along with charcoal. Your plants will grow very well. Using charcoal in enriching our soil is something that every gardener should be doing, should be telling each other, should be encouraging each other. Like burn little bits of wood, burn little pieces of bone, and just put it in your garden. But don't burn it and go and put it in straight away. You need to burn it, then crush it, and mix it with food waste. Food waste that you've already put some sugar drink because the food waste needs to be encouraged to break down because it's microbes that are going to break it down. You want to make that food waste to be very, very sweet. So you put the sugary drink on it, the microbes break the food waste down. You now take the broken food waste and mix it with charcoal that you've just created by burning some wood. This will help the garden a lot. Yeah, yeah, that's true. It also prevents compaction of soil because we don't want the soil to be compacted. So using charcoal is a very good way of ensuring larger plants. Sometimes I go to some people's garden and I'm just asking every time if I see anything in another person's garden that is better than I have in my own garden, I'm going to ask them how they made it because I want to make good ones as that as well. And gardeners will tell you, this is how I did it. Gardeners will not lie. They're not like a series of people that's like, oh no, I don't want to say secret. No, gardeners will tell you specifically the details of how you go about doing this thing and you will get success. So you need to collect like bits of wood, maybe you cut down your hedge, you keep it somewhere, let it dry. You have some woods you find around as well, have pieces of bone, very hard bone, collect them, put them together in a bucket one day or an incinerator if you have that small incinerator that has a little dome at the top and you burn it. The charcoal that you are going to have may not be enough to, where's a small container? The charcoal may not be enough to fill this container. It's enough to start with. The charcoal that you will get from what you burn may just be small. So don't say just a little charcoal, this or that or the other one. Take this little charcoal and mix it in with about 4 times the size of food waste and it will swell up. So you now put this into the garden soil and the plants will be happy. They will be growing beautifully. The harvest will be so big. Everybody will be saying, oh, what you've grown is really nice. And then you can also tell somebody else, this is how I revived the soil. This is how I wake up my soil. Because you keep the carbon dioxide down here, you keep the carbon down here when you use charcoal in your garden. Also need to be careful when you're burning it. Don't let anything catch fire. That's the only thing that I want to give as a caution. You don't want anything to catch fire. So when you're trying to make your charcoal, keep an eye on it, keep it in a bucket. I've seen other people doing it right on the ground. That's also safe. If you have a ground that's far away from everything, you can burn it on the ground. You can burn it in a container. It's actually the specific way of producing this charcoal is in large in incinerators and with no air, but we can produce the charcoal at home. There will be none in there. Completely no maggots in the container. The tight lid will completely stop any maggots from surviving. It's only microorganisms that will be surviving in there. There will be no maggots, nothing moving. And when you want to do it, you open it outside in the garden and you put it into the soil and mix it with the soil. The thing that will actually have maggots is the one that is exposed, and flies have a chance, because maggots don't just come. Maggots are the babies of flies. Maggots have to be laid as eggs. So when they are laid, then they start growing. But since this thing is in a container, even if one fly had laid an egg on it and is completely sealed now, that maggot will not survive. That maggot will not survive. So you keep it there and you leave it for the time that you're ready to use it. You put it along with your charcoal, or even if you haven't made charcoal yet, you just put it into the soil. The organisms will all be happy. It will work well because that is what they want to create the environment for the earthworms to produce more warm food. The soil will be more fertile. The ecosystem generally will bode well for supporting the plant. It just works right around each other when you have this very fertile soil condition of making sure you put in all the things that you have taken from the soil in form of food back into the soil. You take it and you put it back again. It works very well. It's not a situation where you go to your garden and harvest, and you following year you go to your garden, you plant, and you want to harvest again. If you harvest in your garden, when I harvest my tomatoes, I cut down all my tomato stems and I put them in my compost bin. Now, the reason for this is all those stems have carbon in them, they have nitrogen in them. My tomato plants did not suffer from blight. I always end my tomato gardening before blight comes along. That's why you need to start your tomato garden early enough. If you can start harvesting your tomato garden August, September, October, by the middle of October, you should cut down your tomato plants, put them in for composting, and you can try to face maybe flowers in your garden and everything, not struggling and waiting for the last 3 tomatoes to ripen. That is when they will catch blight. And then you can no longer use the biomass. You can no longer use the living body of that plant in your compost. You've already done your harvesting. You cut down the plants. You put them in your in your compost bin, and it works round for everybody. The plant is going to be fed again the following year because you're going to use this compost to fertilize your soil. I'm not saying you're not going to the soil to buy fertilizer again. You can go to the shop, you can buy any fertilizer of your choice, but don't limit yourself to only shop bought fertilizers. You can also enrich the soil by returning a lot of the things that's taken from it. Enrich the soil, you enable the soil, you rescue your garden by returning a lot of these things to the garden. If you don't return to the garden year in, year out, sometimes it may not show, but when it starts showing, you are going to need a really rapid exercise of returning nutrients to your soil, because you will suddenly realize that the cropping for that year just fall flat on its face. There will not be any of your plants that will do well. The tomatoes will not grow well, the peppers, the flowers, the zucchinis, cucumbers. Then it will come back, oh, the soil is leached, the soil is depleted of minerals and nutrients. So you will now, and at this stage, you can't go and be using shop bought fertilizers for everything. You need to put the leaves, the grass, the food waste, put them all in gradually in form of composting, and it will work. You can do trench composting in lines in your garden. If you have your garden, you can create a straight line. You can mark it with points so you know between this line and this line, this is where I poured some food waste last week. You dig that little portion of your soil, put the food waste for the 3 days or so, and bury it. When you come next week, you you know where that was. You don't dig that place again. You dig another place to carry on with the straight line. You bury the food for the next 3 days in there. Your soil is going to wake up, and everything is going to be earthworms, earthworms, earthworms all over your soil. Your soil will be teeming with life. It will be a complete ecosystem. It will just be so rich. Even you will be very happy, like, oh my days, because you have discovered the secret of gardening. When you discover the secret of feeding your soil, the secret of replenishing your soil, the secret of keeping your soil from drying out by proper mulching, you have discovered the secret of gardening. There's no further secret than to know how to keep your soil in a condition that if you plant something in it, it will grow well and it will be resistant to diseases. Because first we need our plants to be resistant to diseases so that even when we are growing it, it's not like, oh, this bug came, the other bug came, this mite came, the other mite came. All the mites in the neighborhood are arriving at your own place. No, your plants will be resistant, and that will be very good. Thank you very much. Welcome, Tony. I really appreciate. Yo, it's all right. Thank you. I appreciate your coming. So, you will see that when you discover, we're talking about the replenishing our soil. I'm sure you've seen from the topic. When you discover the secret of enriching your soil, and thank you very much for the like. I appreciate you. The secret of enriching your soil through mulching it, returning the food back to it, keeping it covered, and also keeping all the leaves in the neighborhood from other trees and putting it along with what you have, because you are not actually growing under trees, are you? But you can actually take the leaves from under some trees, and put them in your own garden compost system, you have a lot from it. It just works so well. Because what you're going to get from the dry leaves, carbon, because when the leaves on the tree is about to fall off, the nitrogen in the leaves are being returned back to the tree. So the leaves turn yellow and then it dries and falls off. It's only carbon at that stage. But when you have grass clippings, that is nitrogen. So your garden needs the dry leaves, which is carbon. Your garden needs the fresh green grass, which is nitrogen. Put them all together along with cardboard. You have a complete compost. When you are ready to start your garden, you turn all this over. The amount of earthworms you see in it will be so much, you know that you have good soil for your garden. You can go to the shop and purchase a packet of potting soil and add to this, and the soil will be very good. But if you don't even want to buy the soil in the shops, you can dig some soil at the back of your house and mix with all this compost that you've made, and you have a good growing forum. If you can make the charcoal and mix it with food waste, that will work greatly as well, because you want to, they love it. They love it. You want to use all the organic matter around you. You want to use all the organic matter around you and return it to the soil. Organic matter is living matter. Anything that was living before, leaves, wood, not wood that's polished wood and it's made into a table already, but any wood that you see that's just falling off a tree, cardboard, because that's made from trees. Cardboard is just paper that's been made, stuck together so that it becomes very hard. All that is living material as well. You put all of this back into your soil, and okay, molehills. I don't know where would we get molehills. I would like to collect that because I've seen them before when I was young, but I haven't seen molehills in years. I haven't seen molehills in years. Which area can one get molehill? Because I go to the forest a lot. We'll just go out there. Because yes, that would be nice. But then the ones that I see is sometimes I'll see these little earthworms hills. I try to collect them and just put them, because I know it's earthworm poop. I collect those earthworm poops when I go to a forest and I use it for my garden. Lighter fluid. No, 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 no. You can't use the charcoal. You can't use the charcoal that has lighter fluid. You can't use the charcoal that is briquette. Sorry. I don't know if it has an S in it or not. Briquettes. You can't use that. It has to be proper wood that you have burnt, not that type that they've shaped. They shape it into something like a pie and they put it in packets to in the, no, that's not, that cannot be accepted by the microbes in the soil because they've put some chemicals in it. It has to be wood that you just burnt. If you have a wood burner and you don't use wood lighter liquid, then use it. But if you're using wood lighter liquid, I don't know if that will be accepted by your earthworms and microbes. So what you would have is just the ones that you burn Yeah, if the leaves fell from a diseased tree, you don't use that as well. That's why I was mentioning that the tomato plant, you should not allow it to get a disease. If the tomato plant has got a disease, okay, okay, I think I'll probably have a ride to Wigan one day just to go and have a look. So you take that and use. Also, you can use ash from burnt wood. If you burn your wood and it's gone past the charcoal stage and become ashes, you can use the ashes as well because it's very good for the soil. But we'll try to discourage the wood from burning to ash if we are actually trying to create charcoal. But if it's the wood that's burning in the house, then it burns all the way to ashes because you need the heat. It has done its job. You can use the ashes from the heater in the garden. That works very well. Yeah, that's just the ash from the burned wood can be used. That's good. But then we have to consider, how about the liquid lighter? Yeah, sheep poo, yeah, and cow poo, yeah. All those manure can be added to our soil. When you go to a place to collect manure, they will show you the side that is oldest. That is the side you should collect from because they will be delivering the fresh ones to one side. Don't collect the fresh poo. Collect it from the side that is opposite. And every one of them does that system. They deliver it on one side and then they show people another side. That is the side where you should be collecting your manure from. Don't feel like, I should have collected from that side where they bring in nice ones. No, those nice ones, they haven't matured yet. You need to collect from the opposite side, the one that is like 8 years old, 5 years old. That manure from the cow or from the horses, that is the best for the garden because it's no longer hot. The one that is still fresh is hot and it can burn the garden. When you have it and it's cooled over the years, that is perfect. So we also have chicken poop. Yeah, chicken poop also have to be aged. That's why when it's mixed with the chicken droppings and the pieces of ash, I mean the pieces of sawdust and everything, you wait for a while before sweeping it and now putting it in a corner. Then when you want to start your garden in about 3 months, you put the chicken poop. So all of them need to be aged because the more aged they are, the better for our soil. It's not as if they're going to, it's going to lose. No, it's microbes in it are going to carry on breaking down the good things so that it's more readily available. You'll be very surprised if you go to collect manure. There's a lot of earthworms in it. If you collect fresh manure, you're not going to find earthworms because earthworms don't live inside the cow. Yeah, yeah, cow manure is better. Oh yeah, the cow, the cow has two stomachs, so and it will take the food, bring it back to its mouth, ruminate, and swallow it again the second time. So it has really digested the food a lot. So when you see cow manure, you dig down, the one that is further in very deep is even being heated up because there will be a lot of heat in there. That is the one that is very good. It's best for our gardens. We need that type of manure for our gardening. A lot of us may not be able to get this manure. There were years where I had to buy the manure. There were years where I found somebody who was able to show me, okay, let's go and collect the manure in this place. So some years you will have to buy the manure. Some years you will find a place down the road where you can collect the manure. Just collect your manure and use it for the garden. It's very, very good, because this is just like the food has been broken down by a big machine. The food has been broken down in the belly of the cow or the horse. Is chewed it up in his mouth, it's taken it to his stomach, it's broken it down, and then it's passed it out at the back. It works very well for gardens because it's been mixed with a lot of microorganisms. By the time it's in the soil for a while, a lot of earthworms will be in there, because all the earthworms in the neighborhood will move to a place where there is good food. They move into the manure. When you collect the manure, there will be earthworms in it, and you can just freely mix it with your soil. It works very well when you have good manure in your soil, and you also have ashes, charcoal, plantain peels. I mentioned plantain peels. It's either you put it in fresh or you just strip it and keep it, and then when you're ready, you just break it down and use a mill to blend it. I do that all the time, and I just store it in containers. So that's why I have all these little containers around here. So I just store all these different bits and pieces. They will be in powdery form. By the time I'm ready to mix them with the soil, it goes in very well. It's not like, oh, a big problem of, oh, how am I going to break down these plantain peels now? Because I've already pulverized them. Now, in the case of eggshells, I collected the eggshells and then I put them in this bag from the shops. I crush it. I give it to my visitors to crush. To everybody else. Crush it, crush it, crush it. Sorry for the noise. And then I put it into the mill because it's in little bits now. It's in little bits. This can be crushed by the mill now, and it works very well. This mill, this is actually my juicer. I use it for juicing. I use it for breaking, because these foods, I wash it afterwards and use it as I please. This little one is the mill, but it's too small for me. It's too small for me to be. How many times will I mill when I can do it in this bigger one? And at the end of the day, it will be okay. Yeah, they need the grit to help them with their gizzard. They need the grit. So earthworms just love leftover food. And one very good way you can, when people say don't add orange to your soil or to your compost, just soak the orange in water so that it doesn't get dry. Soak the orange in water. It will be a bit mushy. Put it in. Then earthworms are not going to be dying or running away. They don't mind. They just feed on these things, produce the poop, and your garden is rejuvenated. It's good. Yeah. Also, you have potato peels. It's good. Yeah. Yes, you will have potato sprouts if you put potato peels just in the soil. So you may want to break down your potato peels. I didn't mind potato peels sprouting in my garden just anyhow, because I would normally uproot them and put them around my compost bin because of the slugs that come out. When the slugs come out, so they can have something to eat, I just leave it there like that. So I put the orange peels in water, and 48 hours later, okay, they keep the. Oh no, I have cats walking around in my garden, but they don't walk in the garden bed really. So Yeah, that is. I thought somebody said something about the plantain peels should be dried and milled into powder for the cats one, because the cats won't want to be smelling uh, plantain peels. I mean orange peels. They will be put off quickly. They won't come again. But I just put the plantain peels along for the earthworm to feed on, and they will break down and go into the soil. And the plantain peels has a lot of nutrients in it. It has vitamins in the body. Yes. Oh yes. Yes. They will not want to come around when they smell anything citrusy. So that's another good advantage that we have with um yeah, when you have cats walking around, just make sure you cut up those plantain peels, make it into smaller bits so they're not unsightly. You don't want just long curls and curves of plantain peels all over the place. Make sure you crack down your plantain peels, make them into smaller bits, then you can spread it around. Any cat that smells it will not walk on your garden bed. They walk on the ground, that's all right, that's fine, but not where you're planting something. So that's where you will spread the orange peels. The orange peels are any kind of citrus peel, they would not like to be near it. So it puts them off, because I know somebody who says there are so many cats where he lives, like about 5, 10 cats will come to their place. And if that happens, that is too much. You don't want so many cats just milling around in your place. So if you can do something like that orange peel one and put it, they will stay away, and that will really work wonders. But to use orange peel in our compost, you should just soak it, and the following day put it in. It's already wet, and it's not going to get dry again unless your compost bin is dry. And you don't want your compost bin to be dry, because when your compost bin is dry, ants will come along. And ants are a surefire way of knowing that a compost bin is dry. If you have ants in your compost bin, then you need to put water. That's just it. So put water if you have ants. It's very dangerous. You don't want a cat pooing in the bed. So you want to prevent the cats from coming to your garden bed at all cost. You want to make sure they stay away and they don't come to your garden bed, because they contain strong, is it trichomonas or something? You don't want that in your plants, because it can be dangerous to humans. If you have cats poo in a garden bed where you are growing food, you don't want that at all. The cats can be walking around in the garden, but you definitely want to discourage a cat, and they will be properly discouraged if you use orange peels in your soil. Orange peel is, yeah, the okay. Cats like fresh turned soil. That's why you have to mulch your soil. When you have fresh turned soil, it's like a warm place and they want to lie on it. They even go, I see them digging like across my friends on the other side. They will use their hand and be doing as if they are digging the soil. If they see that kind of soil in your garden as well, they will try to dig it. So you have to make sure that your garden bed is completely mulched all over. They're not going to find any soil at all to even say, oh, let me dig around here, because your garden bed is covered in grass, leaves, wood chips, the pine leaves from the Christmas trees, all of them covering your garden bed. There's no cat that can come along, and you have the advantage that your soil does not dry quickly, and that's good for the plants. When the soil doesn't dry so quickly, yeah, cayenne pepper as well. That's another advantage of growing cayenne pepper. It will drive away. I always put cayenne pepper in my garden to even drive away slugs, because I don't want to see them around. So I put it I put it on the fence as well. Maybe that's why they can't climb the fence. I put it on then. And then, yes, a man's pee is also good for compost. It also drives cats away, but it's also good for the compost. I know somebody who says he created an outpost, or what do they call an outdoor toilet, because he had about 5 boys living in his house. And he said to them they should all be weeing in the porter cabin that he put outside, where he can always go and collect the bucket of wee and use it. He used that to rejuvenate his garden soil. And he said within 3 months, the soil was rescued because the soil was depleted. Because I was telling you that by the time your garden soil starts to suffer in the first year, in the second year, you may not notice it. You will just think, oh, this thing didn't grow well this year. But maybe in the third or the fourth year, when everything now doesn't grow well, you will realize that your soil has been depleted. You would have to do a very serious emergency rescue. Let me have a drink. And you can see trap foods. Yeah, they supply us with fruits and they are good. So you will see that over the years, when your garden is losing nutrients, you will not notice. You will just think, oh, my tomato didn't do well this year. My roses didn't do well this year. My other plant, because it's only one side that you are noticing at once. Gradually, in about 4 years, if you don't actively replenish your garden soil, you are going to now discover that everywhere the production is reduced. Then you would have an emergency rescue at your hand. What I always suggest is that we take pictures of our gardens. Take pictures of your gardens so that you can compare, oh yeah, this is what I was producing. And then you compare what you were producing 4 years' time and see if it looks as good or if your gardening production level has reduced. That is what you're going to use to know if you have come in good every year or if you are reducing in harvest level on every crop, because you need to put them all in a situation where they are able to access the nutrient that they need. Plants can't go somewhere and be looking for, you've planted them here, that's why they're called plants. They stay where they are planted and you need to supply them with nutrients. That is the best way that we can keep our plants healthy. A lack of calcium and magnesium will be sorted with eggshells, calcium, plantain peels, magnesium, and also Epsom salt, magnesium. But all the other foods, waste foods that we have, will supply magnesium. And you know, they are both micronutrients. The macro, that is macro, big. The macronutrients that we have are nitrogen, phosphorus, NPK. nitrogen, phosphorus, and magnesium. They need it in large numbers. They need phosphorus in large numbers. They need nitrogen in large numbers. That's why on the containers of fertilizers, they will only write NPK. It contains some other things, but they are more concerned about telling you about those ones because those are the ones your plants need a lot of. But if your plants don't get the others, they won't be all right. But they need a lot of the N, the P, and the K. So you want to put a lot of that in your soil. And if you can get some extra from other places, apart from the shop bought fertilizers, then bring it on. You can get it from all these peels, onion peels, plantain peels, eggshells. They all work to the advantage of our plants. And you can even foliar feed your plants if you put Epsom salt in water, and that's magnesium already. Put some Epsom salt in water and spray all over your garden. This will make the leaves to wake up and look nicely. They will really work well. Yeah, comfrey and stinging nettles. I've already found some stinging nettles somewhere a bit further away, but I have comfrey in my garden and I have comfrey outside my garden because there's a little space outside my garden, and I saw that comfrey wanted to grow there, so I've encouraged it to grow more, and I've told everybody in the neighborhood, I'm trying to grow comfrey here, please. And I just go there at the end of every year and pick it. So there are flowers growing there, but there's comfrey growing among them. So I just go there and I pick the comfrey, I put it in water, and it becomes fertilizer for my plants. So when you have comfrey, castanets, and a few other weeds that we have in your garden or that you find in your neighborhood, you can put them into a bucket, place a stone on top, and then put water and leave it like that for about 4 weeks. You come back and look at it. You see that it's turned to, everything is almost liquid. You can now use that liquid, pour it into a container, and that's a fertilizer. That's, you can just be mixing with water and giving to your plant. And when you have homemade fertilizer, there's no measure. You can use as much of it as you like. There's no, oh, you're going to over, if it's a chemical, maybe for one reason or the other, you wouldn't be using. If it's something that's just freely out there, you can use as much as of these homemade fertilizers as you like. It will just be good for your thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Angela Smith. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you. So you can use this as a way of getting more fertilizers from the environment for your garden. You put the leaves, even some of your own old plant crops. If you are growing corn and it's at the end of the year, put it into the compost bin, cut it up, put it in the compost bin. If it's some kind of weed like comfrey, nettles, put it in a bucket, make it into a fertilizer. You can use as much of it for your garden as you like, and your garden will just keep on growing. Yeah, it's very nice. Tea is a fantastic fertilizer for any flowering and fruiting plant. Nettle tea is wonderful for leafy greens. Yeah. Yeah, please drop your link. Please drop your link, Tony. Yes, thank you very much. It's all right. That's very all right. Yeah, thank you. It's all right. Yeah, drop your link. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. Drop your link so that we can gain from that. Angela, you could drop your link as well. Everybody, drop your link and let's take a look. See, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Angela's Busy Bee. Please drop your links and let's have a look and share some love and be able to support each other, because I've always said it, gardeners, we teach each other everything because our aim is to produce the best food. Even if you're having a garden competition, you still want the person next to you to produce good food. Not that you will produce good food and the other person will come along with some, that food, it doesn't really look attractive. I want to produce very good food, and I want you two to produce very good food, because I may be the best in tomatoes, I may be the best in peppers, I may be the best in, I can make a list of, but there will also be a list. You may be the best in kale, you may be the best in oranges, apples, you may be there will just be a list. It's endless. So I would teach you all the secrets that I use in my garden, and I would also come to your garden to see how you're doing it, and I would ask you how you're doing it, and it will work very well for all of us, because then we produce good food for the polity. It's just the best way for us all to get. It's all right. It's all right. You can just check anybody who drops their link, gardening after lockdown. You can just check out anybody who drops their link. That means the person wants you to check their garden. Yeah, that's all right. So check them and you can see what you can gain from looking at other people's garden, because we'll gain a lot by looking at how other people are doing it. Nobody is an island. You cannot say, you know how to do this, and no. You have to go and see how they're doing it next door. You have to go and see it how they're doing it in the next city, in the next country. That is when you can actually have it all covered right round. If you think, I already know how to grow this, and you don't go and learn a little more, you will see that they are even growing it faster, easier, and you are still stuck on growing it in the old world way. You need to be looking ahead and be trying to do these things in the newest ways. When I first started collecting eggshells, I used to crack it with my hand. I would go like this, clap, 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 until I saw this style. Just pour the eggshells in nylon. Oh, my hands are happy. Yes, I will be wearing gloves, but this is just so convenient. This is just so convenient. Pour all your eggshells after you've washed and dried them. Pour them into a shopping bag and crush, crush, crush. You can even be crushing it for the next 3 or 4 days. And you still come back and keep crushing. You can crush it to the extent that it will almost be powder. I've done that before. The first time I learned this way of crushing eggshells before putting it into the blender mill, I crushed it so much that it was very little. It was very little because I kept on crushing it. I didn't just crush it a bit and say, oh, now I've crushed it. Because you put it in a carrier bag that is tough. So the more you crush it, the smaller it will be. And when you crush it and it becomes small, you put it into your blender mill and Bob's your uncle. It just works well. Yes, Angela, I love admiring other people's garden. I love the order that I see. And then I try to bring that and do for my own garden as well. The beauty of mixing that, it's not just plants for food, plants for beauty as well. So next year I want to grow more flowering plants because there will always be space for growing all these things, and it just works well. Admiring another person's garden, you'd want to look for a little space in your own garden as well, whether it's a backyard garden or an allotment. You'd just see that, oh, there's space there. That's when you'll realize that there's space there, and you would, if you didn't go to the little farmers, you wouldn't know that you can use just a little space to create a tunnel, and you can be growing under it. It works very well when you watch some other people creating how they make their garden productive. But it also brings back to you, okay, I can use this little space to create a small tunnel for myself as well. It may not be as big as that one, but at least I know how many things I can grow out of it. Because I used to think to myself, oh, if I had a very small tunnel like that, and then I just saw him, just the germinations is enough. You germinate in it, you can germinate so much fruits inside that little something, and then you take it into the bigger tunnel that is just created, and your plants are not being attacked by butterflies laying their eggs and causing larvae to come and eat up your garden. Your plants are safe, and the sunlight comes in through the tunnel because of the polycarbon and the nylon sheets that is used. All those things are information that, and the wind isn't blowing all your plants away as well, because last year the wind actually showed all of us a lot of struggle here. It was so windy, and I'm sure there's nowhere in the world that you are gardening that you didn't experience the wind or the rainstorm. If it's all under a kind of a covered thing, then all that wind would not be so much trouble to be taken care of. So when we have all these different ways, it helps our plants to be in a safe way. And when you will just see answers to some situations in your own garden as well. Yeah, you will just see answers, and you will be able to 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 grow without feeling like, oh, I need to wait until the end of May before I put my tomatoes outside. You can actually put them outside maybe 3 weeks earlier, and it has direct sun above it. You're getting closer to your harvest than somebody else who's just put it outside in May, because that's keeping it indoors slows down the growth. The plant is ready to grow. The plant is very young, it's in its youth. It wants to grow quickly at that time. It needs to be outside, but it's cold outside, so you can't put it outside. You keep it indoors to keep it warm, but it's not receiving enough sunlight. It's only maybe professional people selling seedlings and things that probably be going around buying lights and things. You can make your own little tunnel, put a small space in it, and grow your little plants. When they are big enough, you can now put them outside, but they will be big and able to compete with other gardens as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, garden after lockdown. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will put timestamps on it. Thank you very much for that advice. For different parts of the video, I will do that so that it wouldn't look too long. Yeah, I will find out. I will find out how I will do that. Thank you very much, garden after lockdown. I really appreciate you. It was nice being at your garden as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. God, we are the stewards of the creator. We are helping to ensure that the food is always grown to the best of its ability. Yeah, bye bye. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Have a lovely evening. Okay. Yeah. So please try and visit the garden, and you will learn a few things. We'll always learn from each other. Thank you very much and welcome, Miriam. It was nice seeing you. It was nice seeing you earlier, and it's nice seeing you now. Thank you so much. Talking about waking our gardens up, waking our soil up if they seem depleted. Because when you have your soil and your garden and you're growing over the years, these things will go lower in their productivity. You need to put things like eggshells. Initially, when I would add eggshells to my garden, I'll collect the eggshells and I will start crushing them by hand, wearing gloves, of course. But then, after I learned from another person, all you have to do is put it into a carrier bag and crush it. You even get to crush it smaller than if you were crushing it by hand. Thank you. Okay. Okay, yeah. When you visit the little farmer's farm, please leave a comment so that he can find you. Because you're watching, he wouldn't know if you don't leave a comment. If you leave a comment, then he can find your channel easily. That's the secret of it. If you don't comment, he can't find you easily. But if you leave a comment, then he can find you quicker. So please do leave a comment when you visit his channel or each other's channel. That's one secret that you use to also grow on this YouTube. When you visit any channel, leave a comment. If that person is fair-hearted, they'll come back and they'll see you. And that's how you grow. But let's continue producing good material. I don't want somebody just sitting down there and looking at the wall and expecting me to hang around for a live. When you want to do a live, you have to communicate with us and let us learn a few things about the secrets to your own gardening success. That's how we will all enjoy being here on YouTube. We learn from each other. When we go to each other's live stream, we are also learning. I tried to go to somebody's live stream today. Yeah, that is true. And thank you very much, Tony. When I went to someone's live stream today, he wasn't saying anything. He was just saying, comment please, friends. Comment please, friends. But you're not showing anyone anything. You're not doing anything. They don't know what you know, so they don't know what question to ask you. When I come in here and I'm talking about gardening, you can ask me a gardening question. And I'm talking about replenishing our soil. You also bring what you know, and we add it. And we are all learning. That is the best way for us to go along. If you are into just discussing situations that we find ourselves in, or how to handle your pet, how to train your pet, just daily, day-to-day living, you need to show us a bit of that as well. Yeah, Miriam. And when I come along and I see that, I'll sit down there and ask you more questions about what is going on. I'll ask you more about the food, about the recipe and everything. That is the best way for us to rub around each other and grow on this YouTube. If you just go to somebody's channel and you just watch and go away, the person will not be aware. You are not aware of all the people that watched. It's because it's very hard to find somebody who has watched you. If you watch me and you're a YouTuber, I would like to help you as well. So if you watch the farmer's farm, make sure you let him know. Yeah? The comment must be good. Yeah, it's key to presentation. You have to have content for us to watch, for us to come again. If there's no content, then we can't come again. I've got two people now that are like my friend's children, and then my cousin's, my friend's child and my cousin's child, and they've both now said to me, "Oh, my daughter is starting YouTube." I went to their channel. They both have, one has one video, one has two videos. You have to have good content in that video, and you have to comment when you go to other people's channels so that they will be aware that you have been to their channel. We all watch YouTube all day long. We've been watching YouTube for years. Leave comments there. I've been watching Gary V. I've been watching Bette David. I've been watching in who is that money guy? Good Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've been watching all their channels and leaving comments. I've been watching Ben TV. Is it Ben? TEDx rather. I've been watching TEDx and leaving comments. Yeah, you leave a comment on a channel, then the people can see that this person came to my channel. Thanks to them. If they have the time, they'll come and see you. Why won't you have the time? Once in a while, you also make time to go and see other people's channels. You also want to learn what's going on in the world, what's going on their side, what's going on in their own case as well. And we'll learn off each other. That is the very best way to grow. You can't just watch and be like, "Oh, I'm hiding." If you're hiding, then you're hiding. You will be invisible. Some people will say, "Oh, the YouTube is not making me visible." YouTube will not be able to make you visible if you watch, you don't comment, you don't have footprint. You need to leave your footprint, then you can be located. Because there are times you even put some people's, if somebody says, "Oh, this is my channel, this thing," and you say, "Okay, watch me." The person refused to watch you, say, "Okay, well, he told me the name, let me go and check him." And you put their name on, you never find them, especially those people that are in countries that are far from you. It's not easy for you to find them. So when you put their name in severally, it will be giving you so many other people, you will probably be fed up and you go away. But if they themselves, when they are telling you they watched your channel and left you a comment, you will find them easily. Then you can go back. And let me tell you something. Some people watched my channel like 3 months ago. They left comments and I've only just seen it. Because sometimes the person will not see your comment the following day. So don't expect that, "Oh, it's coming back to watch me the following day." It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes the comment may not be visible. Nobody understands what is happening. Even it may even be my own lack of how to look at my YouTube studio thing that doesn't allow me to see the comments. So I would have turned one page and wouldn't see that there are comments there. Then I come back another day and turn that same page. I start seeing comments of 3-4 months ago. So I'm like, "Oh my days, this person has actually left me a comment." And I'll go and say, "I just saw your comment, this, that. That is how it works. You don't have to say, 'Oh, I left this person a comment. This person hasn't left me a comment.' Leave somebody a comment, somebody else will leave you a comment. It's just the way with us gardeners, especially. If you have some plant produce, you give to somebody else will give you. That is how it works. It's not, if you want to do an exact exchange, that also happens. But you can do a gifting to the left and receive a gift from the right. That's just what I'm trying to say. You give this and it goes on. Exactly. We learn what we learn, we share, and we all grow more. We all grow better. So even all those who are saying, you're a gardener, you're a gardener, before they know it, they started growing some potatoes. This is the potato I harvested from my bag yesterday. I just thought, let me grow these potatoes in a bag and see. So I went, I put the potatoes in the bag in August. It was August 1st. Because I said, okay, 120 days. And yesterday I went there and the potatoes have grown. I just harvested and I'm not going to be peeling these potatoes at all. I'm just going to cut each one into about 4 and roast it with my mixed veg because it's good food. Before you know it, everybody too will be growing. Thank you very much, Tony. I really appreciate your run with me. I'm very grateful. Yeah, and greetings to the family. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All the best to you too at the Little Farmers Farms crew. Oh, my love. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And bye. Mwah. So, what we'll notice is that we constantly need to replenish our soil. We constantly need to put in what we have taken out because you plant and you are harvesting, but you don't realize that you are already taking out all the goodness that you put into the soil. You're already taking it out. You want to put some back in. You don't want to just continue harvesting. You harvest this year, harvest the following year, and you harvest the third year. By the 4th year, your harvest will not be so yearly. Before your soil starts complaining, before your plants start complaining, start putting back all these things that you actually get as waste after you've eaten your food. The eggshells, the plantain peels, the banana peels, the peels of these nuts. Can't remember the name. The nuts like grain when you break it open. It's quite hard, so I'm going to just put it in the fire along with some wood that I want to use to make charcoal. It will come out and I will use it for my activated charcoal for the soil because it really does help. Now, peanut casings, they don't break down easily, so I just put it in the blender. They are soft, they're soft enough to put in the blender, but first before I put it in the blender, I did the crush method for it as well. Put it in here, crush it, and then I put it in the blender. This coconut heels, they are going in the fire. To put them all, as it's burning, I put another one. As it's burning, I put another one. They will all be burning, and then I have my charcoal. When it's ready, I'll put water, not like pouring a bucket of water. I spray it with water. Make sure it's water that is in the container. You spray it with water, and the fire will die down. You can spray it some more and leave it there. Then you come back, you crush the charcoal, and you mix it with the food that's been broken down for about 3 weeks. You would have collected that food and you put some sugary liquid like a squash, a soda, any juice, just to have a lot of sugar to break the food down. You come along, you crush them together, and the charcoal is activated. That will allow your garden soil to be like no other. Your your growing, your harvesting, it will be seamlessly big every year, year in, year out. Keep adding these things because every year you're going to get eggshells. Every year you're going to get chicken bones. You're going to get banana peels. Just put them away on one side, and when you're ready, you make use of them, and that's it. Now, I was telling somebody, and she was asking me what kind of potato. You can grow any type of potato. You can grow the sweet potato. This is sweet potato. And you can grow just potatoes. This one is not sweet. You can grow both of them. They are both good for the system. Earlier, I was going to discuss what we should take as our staple food. And right now, this is what I want to talk about. When we are in a place and we're able to grow a certain food, that is the food we should take as our staple food. If I take a food now, like rice as my staple food, I can't grow rice. But I can grow potatoes. That means I should eat more potatoes. If I don't want to be out of pocket all the time I want to eat potato or I want to eat rice. Your staple food definition is the main food in your diet, the one that you eat almost every day. That's your staple food. So if you're able to, thank you very much. You're welcome. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm talking about staple foods now. Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, if you're growing a certain food, you should make that your staple food and grow more of it. Because if you choose something else as your staple food and you can't grow that, you're going to keep on buying it. You're going to be out of pocket. It's always nice to feed your body with food that you can grow or that somebody in your neighborhood can grow and you can all share out of it. So if some people in my neighborhood are growing potatoes, even if I am not growing potatoes, potatoes should be my staple food. Now for some people, they have rice as their staple food, and I want to advise you, you can't grow rice easily just anywhere. But you can grow potatoes. You can even grow it in bags. I've grown these potatoes in a bag. I just put 2 potatoes in and the thing came up. And I harvested it yesterday. You can grow potatoes anywhere. Just grow it, have it with some mixed vegetables. Lentils, that is beans, for more protein, and it will really bode well for our diet. But if we are still struggling to say, I want to have a specific food as my staple food. Staple food means everyday food, the food that I eat like frequently. And this food is not readily available. You have to keep buying it and buying it. If you make something like bread, your staple food, and you can't grow wheat, you can't bake bread. So it means somebody will grow the wheat, somebody will bake the bread, and you will go there and go and buy it. That's not sustainable. What you should do is find a way where you can probably make bread out of these potatoes, because I've discovered that potatoes can grow anywhere in the world. It's just the same as tomatoes and peppers. So if you grow these potatoes, make it your staple food. Grow a lot of it. You don't have to go to a farm miles away so that somebody else will harvest it, because I know that can happen. You can grow the potatoes, and somebody else will come along and harvest it, and you've just labored for somebody else. Grow them in spaces around your house. All it needs is sunshine. The sun shines in your place. You don't have to go to the forest before you get sunshine. Stay around your house, get some bags, get some buckets, get some beans, get some cases, put soil in it, put your potatoes in, and grow them. Just keep the surroundings clean. Make sure nothing is crawling around your potatoes. After 3 months, you can harvest it. 4 months, you can harvest it. You will know you have food just at arm's length from you if you are able to grow something and harvest it. Even if you are living in a flat and you have the sun shining over your balcony, buy soil, put it in a bag, put it in your balcony. Be wetting it, and you will see, you'll be surprised. These potatoes will grow and you have food for yourself. That takes away from the amount you're going to use to be buying bread every morning. Then you can buy bread when you really feel like, yeah, I want to eat bread. You can have these potatoes, you can make it into chips, you can make it into fries, you can use it as a hot pot, you can make it into soup with other vegetables. It is a versatile food. You can bake it into a pie. That's just very close to having bread. Grow potatoes, please. This potato, you just put in the soil directly and it grows. This one, you need to, first of all, you will cheat this as well. You will cheat both of them. You will put them in conditions where they start growing some on their body. But with this potato, after it has grown a few eyes out of its body, this eyes, after leaves have started growing out of it, you just put it in the soil and it's well on its way. But this one will become overcrowded. So you need to take the little plants off and grow them separately. They are called slips. You take them off and grow them separately. If you have from just this one plant and you put it in water and it starts growing, it can grow about 5 or 6 slips because it's quite big. If you grow 6 slips, I think each one will produce about 10 potatoes for you. So from just this potato, let's even be more conservative. Let's say instead of producing 5 slips, it produces 4. And each one of those slips now grows and produces 8. That's 4, 28. That's 32 potatoes. From just one, it has become 32. That is something that everybody should be going around. Just put a bag in any corner where the sun can reach, and you will know you're producing food. You're producing food for your family. You're producing food for the community. Because when you're feeding, you're not just feeding your family, you're feeding the community. You have friends, you can give them some of the potatoes if you are too rich to eat it. You can grow the potatoes and give it to other people. And then they will come and say, oh, but you grew this thing in your house, show us how you grew it. So if you are not able to be growing potatoes because you want to eat it, because you can afford to buy food, grow it because you want to give it to other people so that they can learn how to grow it. Because if you are going around being like, I can't be growing potatoes, then other people will probably be feeling a bit uncomfortable growing it. They will be like, maybe it's only certain people that grow it. No. As human beings, we should all be growing food because we all eat food. That's just basic. You should grow good food at that. not just food that's been running around town before it gets to you. Food that you harvest in your own locality, among your own neighbors. It's been well handled. It's reached you. That's the kind of food that gladdens the belly. This is what you call your staple food. The food that you can get a lot of it, so you get to eat more of it. And this doesn't contain gluten, so there's hardly any allergic reactions. This thing makes me ill, or on potatoes. Sweet potato has a lot of advantages. If someone is diabetic, they can eat this every day because it contains substances that help control the blood sugar. It's good for the heart. It's good for the blood vessels. So growing potatoes is actually something that I consider to be positive. So let's call potatoes our staple food. Potatoes is going to be my staple food now. My staple food used to be amala. You may not know what that is, but that is grown from yam. And yes, I can grow the yam, but it's just easier for me to grow this. Most people's staple food will be rice. Rice, 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 rice. Most people can't grow rice. Why are you making the food you can't grow your staple food? It's the food you can grow, or your neighbor can grow, or somebody down the street can grow. I mean, you go through many, many streets. Not a single one of them can grow rice, because rice doesn't grow that easily. Make a food that grows easily your staple food. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and you're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a nice night, Indiana backyard gardener. And you're welcome, Garden State gardener. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your presence. Yeah. Thank you very much. So what you discover is when we are eating a certain food, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Have a blessed night. Have a very blessed night. I really appreciate you. Thanks so much. Okay. So when you have this as your staple food and you grow a lot of it, and you can even give it to your neighbors, that's because you can grow it easily. When you see somebody trying to grow other foods, they can't give away out of that food because they've only just struggled to produce the bare minimum enough for them. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. Thank you. They've only just managed to produce. Oh, yeah, I know. Thank you. I really appreciate your coming. Have a nice dinner. I really appreciate your coming. Thank you so, so much. Really appreciate you. Okay. So having foods that are easier for us to produce as our staple food is actually the way forward. It's great. It brings ease. And when somebody is talking about world food shortage, we know we can overcome it because we are growing those foods that we can grow easily. Why are we growing those foods that are actually difficult for us to grow? Yes, we can grow them and have them, but we don't want to grow them and depend on them for our daily consumption. We want to grow them, and once in a while we'll have this. While it's in season, would have this. One other advantage of the potato is that it keeps well. This potato is able to keep until the next 11 months when I'm ready to plant another one. But I'm not going to wait for 11 months before I even plant another one. I'm going to plant another one as the Lord wills me in May or June. As soon as the weather is warm, I'll be planting some more potatoes. Now, it's planted, but this will still be here, and I'll be having it for my staple food. When I'm harvesting those new potatoes, this will be coming to an end. So you just see that growing this as a staple food is a very good idea, a very good way of producing our food in a smarter way and not in a more stressed out way. The staple food should be able to keep for a long time, not get spoiled. And the staple food should be something we can readily produce, then readily teach somebody else how to produce, and readily teach somebody else how to store. And not that they have to store it in the freezer using electricity. Just store it in open air and go there every day, take some, cook it, and you're all good to go. The staple food is very important for us all to consider. We need to sit down and consider, what is the food that we eat most of? What is the food that we eat all the time? Make sure it's a food that somebody in your neighborhood knows how to grow, is able to grow. Because I know how to grow rice, but I'm not able to grow rice. Because how will I get all that water to put in the rice paddy? And it's not easy. But to grow potatoes is so much easier. And I'm going to get as much, if not more, nutriment from these potatoes. I can cook it. It's just as versatile as you can cook your rice. You can cook it in so many ways as well. It's a very important point to consider growing this food because it comes in handy. Make it into a soup, make it into chips, bake it, make it into a pie. You can use it to make many different recipes. Please consider the staple food. Now, as I'm taking a break, I would like to show you. Oh yeah, let me show you my my ginger. I was planting garlic yesterday, and I said I was going to plant garlic and ginger, but I didn't plant the ginger. I've planted some ginger earlier, about a month ago, and I'm happy to show you it's starting to grow. Not grown a lot. If you can see those white bits, those two white bits, yeah, sticking out, those are growths on my ginger. Now, what I was trying to find out was growing this ginger as a whole or cutting it into pieces. Because I cut my ginger into pieces last year and only one of them survived. So I was like, is it actually advisable for me to cut my ginger into pieces? So I took one ginger. This ginger is about 4 inches by 3 inches. That's how wide it is. It's flat. And I put it in the pot, a whole ginger like that, and I put it in the pot. Because what I'm thinking is the ginger will grow out from all the different points that it's supposed to grow out and produce ginger for me. And I think that's what's happening. It's growing out from 3 different spots right now. Maybe I need to cut it. I don't know. I'll find out from some other gardener. Or maybe I need to leave it and it will continue growing like this. But I'm just happy that the ginger has started growing. So I'm well on my way to having a large ginger harvest. You can see that this is a very small pot. I'm going to be putting it in a very large pot. It's going to have enough room to grow. You don't grow something like ginger in a tiny pot. Grow it in a pot about 18 inches, because when it has room, it grows. When you squeeze it up, it will just be squeezed. So you want to grow your ginger in a large pot. I don't know why my ginger from last year, only one survived. I only have one ginger. And now, this has come along. It's showing me 3 different points at which it is growing. I'm happy to see that. Then I want to introduce my baby yucca, baby rubber plant that I grew from very little. It has become a real giant. I don't think you can actually appreciate this. So I'm going to bring a cover so that you can see it very well. I'll put a white cover, then you'll be able to see the plants very well. Okay. Okay. So now you can see all the ones here, all the green things here are parts of my baby rubber plant. It is a Peperomia obticifolia. That's its name. It's got thick, shiny leaves, and I just love having it. I thought I would show it in this video. It's been growing very well. And I've been cutting off bits of it. I can cut off an entire branch like this to start a fresh plant for some other family to have. I've done that a couple of times, and it's been growing very well. It's a nice plant to have in the house, and it's very good at producing oxygen, just like the rest of the other plants. You know, takes in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, produces oxygen, and we just go on. It's a beautiful plant, and it's been growing for 3 years now. I started it from about 2 leaves, one on that side, a single leaf, the one on this side, 2 leaves. It's grown beautifully. I've taken off a few times to grow other plants, and they've also grown in the places where I send them to. So, growing plants is just a rewarding uh, way of life. Gardening is rewarding. So thank you very much. If you have not seen the beginning of this video talking about the garden rescue, you can see it from the beginning because I don't want to extend this video too long. I appreciate your being here. Have a lovely evening. Bye. Thank you.